Shalom from Yerushalayim. Pesach is coming. I'd like to share a few ideas about the holiday of Pesach, hopefully enhance our Pesach experience. When the Seder comes, we're going to drink 4 cups of wine. Chazal tell us that those 4 cups of wine correspond to the Arba Lashonos Agula, the 4 languages of redemption that you find in the Chumash. Hashem says, V'otzeiti eschem mitzarcha sivlos Mitzrayim. I took you out of Egypt, v'itzalti eschem, and I saved you. V'ga'alti eschem, I redeemed you. V'lekachti etchem li la'am, and I took you for me as a nation. Why does Hashem need 4 languages of redemption? Can't He just take us out of Egypt? And the explanation is, the Netziv points out, that there are 4 different aspects of the servitude in Mitzrayim that Hashem had to remove us from. The way I understand it is that the 4 aspects of servitude were the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual oppression and servitude that we had in Mitzrayim. The Jewish people, first of all, were physical slaves. They had no time to decide to do what they want to do. The stresses, the pressures of the physical labor prevented them from really being able to be free and to make their own decisions. Hashem took them out from the physical labor of Egypt. Hashem saved them refers to the emotional pain and suffering that the Jewish people went through as slaves. The torture, the pain, the oppression that they went through had an emotional toll on them as well. Depression, sadness. Imagine what it was like to be a slave in Egypt. Hashem had to save them also from the emotional pain and suffering in Egypt. When they saw that Hashem took them out, they were able to be free from that emotional pain. But then things get a little deeper. There was also a psychological oppression. The Jewish people had a slave mentality. They couldn't really dream, have hopes and aspirations to be great. That Hashem had to also, Ga'alti eschem, to take them out with Bizro and Atuyu Shvatim Gedolim, with the great miracles that showed them that they were really important, that they really made a difference. Hashem cared about them and did these miracles for them to show them how great they were, and they helped them to break out of their slave mentality that kept them so limited. The last stage, L'kachti eschem li la'am, the Rebbeinu Bachya says, refers to when Hashem took the Jewish people to Himself as a nation at Matan Torah. That when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the Jewish people in Egypt suffered a lot through spiritual slavery as well. They assimilated into Egypt and they lost a lot of their values. To that, Hashem had to bring them to Har Sinai to give them the Torah, and then they received those spiritual uplifting values of the Torah and achieved spiritual freedom as well. Pesach, as we say in Kiddush, is Zman Chirusin, the time of our freedom. It's not just a time in the past where the Jewish people had to break free of their slavery, but it's a time where we have to break free of our bondage as well. We all suffer from different levels of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual slavery. Some people are limited by the demands of their jobs and the stress of their lives, and they're kept so busy physically running around from one thing to the next, don't really take the time to think. Some people are suffering from emotional limitations. The pain and suffering in their lives can cause sadness and depression, and they really need to be saved from that as well. So many people suffer from the psychological bondage, the slave mentality, thinking that we're not really great, we can't really accomplish, we're not good enough. Our self-limiting beliefs sometimes keep us enslaved. And we all suffer from the exposure to the world, the assimilation that can happen, the spiritual slavery of the values of society that sometimes limit us from really being free. Pesach's the time of our freedom. This Seder, as we drink our 4 cups of wine, let's think about these 4 different aspects of slavery. And let's make a little toast to think about each cup. In what ways am I physically enslaved? What ways am I spiritually enslaved? What ways am I emotionally and psychologically enslaved? And this Pesach, let's really break free. Let's bring out our potential. Let's bring out all of the great things that we can do in this world. Realize how important we are. Realize we're completely dependent upon Hashem. And with that, we'll be able to be redeemed from all of our limitations and break free to be truly incredible this year.